kind of punishment?
Hey guys, back again with another video, a review on NIER Automata. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. And this was a game I've been looking forward to for a long time. I'm a pretty big fan of NIER. I don't love it as much as a lot of people do. It's one of those cult classic games. A lot of people consider it like to be one of the greatest games ever made. I've always considered it to be like a flawed gem. Its gameplay definitely had quite a bit of issues. I really didn't like how you had to get the true ending. You had to get all the weapons, which was really annoying. There were a few design decisions in that game that I thought were a little awkward. Yeah, it was basically kind of like a flawed gem. It just had a really exceptional story, and Yoko Taro's typical weirdness. And I think before we start talking about this game, we should just talk about the director of it. It's developed by Platinum Games, but the director is Yoko Taro, previously known for, of course, NIER and then the Drakengard games. And his games, he always... what makes his games special is the fact that he really plays with games like the structure and conventions of video games. And the themes he tackles are often really dark and abstract and morbid. And bizarre. His games are always weird, but they're always enthralling and weird in a good way. And this game is no different as far as its actual story goes, which is where we're going to start off with this game in terms of the review. Unfortunately, it's one of those games that I really wouldn't want to spoil for people. It's hard to get too in-depth with the plot and the characters here because so much of this game delves into spoiler territory when talking about its plot. I can give a basic outline, but really it's one of those games you have to play and really experience for yourself. Expect the unexpected, basically, with how its story is going to play out and how characters are going to develop and how plot revelations are going to happen, especially later in the game. Before the actual plot, I will say, well, actually, no, we'll talk about that a bit later, but basically, it's a post-apocalyptic world. It takes place years after the original NIER, and before we start talking about the plot, I should say, this is a standalone game. You don't necessarily need to play through NIER to get the most out of this one. There are definitely connections with that game, and it's definitely a better experience if you have played it. A lot of this game is pretty crazy. When you've played the original NIER, you'll recognize a lot of different elements. And a lot of the different connections are really cool to see. I don't think you necessarily, absolutely need to play NIER, but it might be hard to go back to after this game because the gameplay in that game is so much worse than in this game. So if you have the option of playing NIER, if you already own it or you can find it for cheap, definitely I would recommend playing that game first. Maybe you don't get all the endings just because it's such a pain in the ass. Look up how to get like the really crazy endings in that game, but at least get like 2 or 3 endings in that game and enjoy it first if you'd want to. But if you don't have access to it or you're just not in the mood for playing a game or you feel like it might have like aged poorly, basically, I think you can jump into this and you're gonna, for the most part, really enjoy it. You'll just miss out on a few different elements. This game was designed to be kind of a standalone game where you don't need to play the original NIER to fully enjoy it, even though it kind of is a sequel. But the plot here, your main characters are androids here. The main character is 2B. They all have like different code names, and the main plot revolves around kind of a war between humanity and machines. And your androids are part of this Yorha program, is what they call it. Out of this bunker above Earth, and you're basically sent to Earth to kind of get rid of the machines and kind of hopefully put an end to this war, because the Yorha group of androids were kind of built as humanity's last stand, basically. Like, humanity is kind of nearing extinction, and these androids are built to kind of protect the last remnants of humanity. And unfortunately, I can't really say much more than that, because right in the first few hours, there's cool story elements that I really wouldn't want to spoil. I will say one of the interesting things with this game is how it merges story, world building, with gameplay and UI, and like the actual interface of the game. And I don't really want to say more than that, but it's really fascinating, the different creative decisions that Yoko Taro takes with this game. as far as its actual gameplay goes, and then the actual story itself, and the characters as well. The way the game handles endings is pretty interesting. This isn't really spoilers, but if you just go through the standard route in this game, which is called Route A, and you get the ending of that, you're probably going to be confused, and you're kind of probably going to be thinking like, that's it? Really? That's kind of disappointing. And I really implore people to at least get endings A through E. Those are kind of the main endings of the game, where once you finish Route E, you'll have the full story for the most part. There are definitely unanswered questions in this game, as with Yoko Taro's previous games, but I actually don't mind that so much. But yeah, so the endings definitely go through A and E, and if you're worried about having to repeat a bunch of content that you've already gone through to get the other endings, you won't have to worry about that. You really don't. And the way the endings are differentiated, especially with the different characters and gameplay, is really fascinating, creative, and cool. And I really wouldn't want to spoil that for anybody. So yeah, there's also more than just endings A through E. There's actually 26 different endings in this game, like from A all the way to Z for the letters of the alphabet. But a lot of them are kind of joke endings. I don't really want to spoil how you get a lot of the endings, but they're basically very quick type endings. The main endings are definitely A through E, where you'll get a lot of story out of them. And the rest of them are just fun little endings that you can go for at the end of the game. But yeah, unfortunately, that's all I can really say about the story and the characters in this game. I will say I greatly enjoyed the story in this game and the characters in this game. I'm not sure it quite lives up to NIER. I think I do prefer the story in that game. This is probably like Yoko Taro's games have always been really dark, and this game is no exception. You will feel like shit at multiple times throughout this game, but it's honestly more hopeful than I was expecting as well. It's nowhere near as dark as NIER or especially the Drakengard games. Maybe some people will be disappointed by that, but I didn't mind so much. And again, this game really makes you think. There's a lot of very interesting themes that this game tackles. And yeah, I really enjoyed the story here. It definitely a highlight of the game. And if it's not already obvious, I fucking love this game. I actually think this game is one of the best games I've played in years. It's the best game I've played since Undertale. It's the best game on the PS4, in my opinion. It completely lived up to the hype for me, and I actually much prefer it to the original NIER. This game is close to being a masterpiece. There's very few things that I actually dislike about this game. But anyways, we'll move on to the actual gameplay for this game now. Platinum developed this game, so there was always the hope that this game would be able to merge like fantastic action gameplay with Yoko Taro's typically crazy storylines. And the combination of Yoko Taro's storyline here and all his crazy ideas mixed with Platinum's typically great gameplay, with the exceptions of some of their games like Ninja Turtles. But yeah, the combination here is absolutely potent. It's amazing. I actually love the gameplay in this game. So basically, it's kind of an open world RPG, open world action RPG, I would consider it, but the open world is not something like Horizon or Skyrim or anything like that. It's actually a fairly contained open world. You kind of have like a hub area, the city ruins, and then you have different areas that kind of branch off from there. You can eventually fast travel between different access points that you'll find throughout the world, which I definitely appreciated. You do get some mounts to kind of travel quickly, and the default running speed is also very fast. But it can be kind of a pain going from area to area, especially in the second half of the game. And I'm very much glad that they added in a fast travel option. It really makes things more painless. If that wasn't in there, it definitely would be a complaint that I have with the game. But yeah, the open world, there's quite a different amount of side quests you can tackle. But yeah, it's not like this massive area, which I like. It's fairly dense with like detail, but at the same time, there are areas that are very empty, considering it's a post-apocalyptic Earth, where basically there's hardly anybody left, and everything is just destroyed and desolate. And I guess some people were kind of complaining about the art style that's very gray and brown. But honestly, I think it fits like the setting of the game. I don't really have a problem with that. I think it's a definite artistic choice. It just wouldn't make sense for the game to be like super colorful or anything like that. But yeah, so it's an open world RPG. This is definitely a role-playing game with some like really intensive action elements as well. I guess we should talk about like the combat. Well, actually, the structure of the game is probably the more important thing to talk about right now. So you can take on side quests. Basically, when you find them, you get like red markers on the map that you can follow to kind of understand how you do certain side quests. Now, the side quests are definitely the weakest part of the game, in my opinion. It's one of the few things I don't like about this game. There's a lot of them, and most of it is just busy work, like find like a bunch of these types of items, go and kill these guys. Now, some of the side quests are actually really well done, and they're pretty funny. There's some machines on Earth that are actually not hostile towards you. And there's a few escort missions where you're escorting these robots, and those quests were surprisingly good. I really liked the kind of the characters in those escort missions and like the conversations that would happen. And I actually didn't mind that I was actually escorting these characters and fighting these enemies along the way. But there's a lot, and some of the side quests actually have a good amount of lore to them and kind of add to the story in small ways. But there's some that just feel like a complete waste of time, where you'll basically collect like a bunch of a certain item for some resistance member. So I ignored most of the side quests. There is one main side quest that you can do, where at the end of it you fight like the main optional boss in this game, like the hardest boss in the game. That's worth doing. Definitely look that up. Unfortunately, I can't really say what it's about because it would spoil things. But basically, when you find yourself at the very end of the game, look up how you fight like the main optional boss, because that side quest is definitely worth doing. Even though the actual side quest itself, like the boss is great, and I like the story aspects to it, but the actual side quest itself is annoying because it's just a bunch of backtracking, and it's very cryptic, like a lot of what you have to do. So yeah, there's a lot of different side quests in this game. I did around 30% of them. Most of them I just did not care for. They are rewarding in their own ways. A lot of them give like good experience payouts, as well as a lot of currency that you can use to buy very necessary things. And then again, like all these different like items you can use to like upgrade your equipment, which I'll talk about that later. But yeah, rewarding as far as like the actual rewards go. But the side quests themselves, typical open world side quests where they're just incredibly bland fetch quests that just I did not care for. I definitely preferred like the main quest, which, speaking of, that's kind of how the structure of this game goes. You'll have a main quest that's kind of denoted on the map by like a big red icon, and then you're basically just doing different objectives in your main quest for your like commander back at the bunker. And of course, yeah, you're kind of exploring this open world, and then side quests kind of pop up at different times. The combat in this game, okay, so the combat is fantastic. I really love it. Those expecting like a Devil May Cry Bayonetta type battle system, like a really in-depth combo-based battle system, might be a little disappointed with this game. But I think this game has its own strengths, and it's going for something a little different, where the focus is on dodging projectile attacks and dodging attacks in general, and kind of balancing your ranged projectile attacks with your pod, as well as your melee attacks. Basically, you can equip different weapons, and weapon types kind of govern like the different combos you can do. But generally, you only have a light attack and a heavy attack, and basically each weapon is equipped to the light attack or heavy attack slot. So you can have like a great sword in your heavy attack slot, and then a katana in your light attack slot. And so you've basically got just two different types of attacks, but you can do like kind of massive combos the more you use the attack button without getting hit. But dodging is a very integral part of the combat. You definitely got to look out for openings and look out for like tells on the enemies and the bosses. But basically, bosses have a lot of like bullet hell type patterns, where like in the original NIER, there's bullet hell elements to this game where they'll shoot these red orbs, and you kind of have to dodge them. And there's kind of like this bullet hell element added to the melee combat that I think is actually really interesting and fun. And then you have the pod system in this game, where you can equip different pods that give you different abilities. For instance, the pod you start with, its standard attack is always going to be like just standard bullets, where you can actually attack ranged enemies that way. And there's a lock-on system in this game as well, and you kind of aim your bullets in a way. And then there's the secondary fire on each of these pods, where the first one's kind of a laser that you can kind of charge up and attack. And honestly, that's my favorite one in the game, but there's a bunch of them as well, like a hammer attack, a sword attack, where you can basically bring out a sword and attack a bunch of enemies in your radius. And I don't really want to spoil the rest of the pods, but that adds a lot of customization to the character as well as the combat itself. And how you equip your different chips and pod abilities and weapons basically governs your play style. And there's a lot of customization there, and that's where I think the combat really shines. It's incredibly flashy. A lot of the moves are fantastic to look at. A lot of the enemy moves are fantastic to look at. It's all incredibly well animated. The game has this epic scope to it where the bosses just get crazier and crazier, and there's a lot of different twists that Yoko Taro throws in there as far as like the bosses go. And the gameplay, it changes up in some really interesting ways. I've heard some people accuse the game of just throwing a bunch of things at a wall and hoping it all sticks. But honestly, for all the ideas this game has, I'm honestly kind of shocked that all of them work as well as they do. The bullet hell instances in this game, for instance, are awesome. There are a lot of sequences in this game where you'll be in a flight unit, and all of a sudden the game will become a top-down shoot-'em-up, where it's just shooting a bunch of like ships with projectile attacks, and then you're given like a new attack, like a sword attack you can use in close range. Like you shoot all these crazy missiles, and then you're dodging all like these red orb projectile attacks. There's like even some Star Fox type elements in this game as well. There'll be times where instead of top down, you can basically fully control your flight unit in 3D, and then you can kind of shoot your projectiles all around you. And it's so seamless, the transitions between shoot 'em up and combat, like the melee combat. It works wonderfully, and it's fun. The game flat out is fun to play. And I really did like the combat, despite a definite lack of depth compared to some of Platinum's other games. But I think it has other strengths. It's going for something a little different here. Now, I mentioned a chip system early on, and this is the main customization system of this game. Like I said before, this is an RPG, so you're leveling up, basically, so you're getting stronger as you're fighting more enemies. You're getting experience. No actual skill trees or anything like that. You're upgrading your weapons as well with materials, which is kind of a common thing in RPGs, but this chip system in this game is, I think, what sets it apart from a lot of other games, and I really loved this system, where basically you get a bunch of chips from enemies and from storefronts that you find throughout the game, and you basically have like a chip storage system. So in the beginning you don't have a whole lot of storage, and different chips are allotted to your storage, and in the beginning you have a bunch of chips automatically equipped, and these chips are actually kind of like UI, like parts of your UI, and that kind of merges in with like the story, and you can actually unequip some of these if you want to equip like stronger chips that basically, like if your chips are taking up too much storage. So one thing I want to recommend to people that first play this game is invest all your money into the chip storage as soon as you can. You can buy basically added storage slots in the beginning of the game. Try to unlock all of them as early as you can, because chips are the way to make this game fairly easy, at least on the normal difficulty. But at the same time, it completely changes how you play depending on the different chips. And I think this is where each person that plays this game is going to play differently depending on how they want to customize their character. So, for instance, each of these chips has a different level to it and a different ability it gives you. So you get like +1 chips in the beginning of the game. So as an example, I'll talk about that is easily my favorite in this game, and it almost broke the game, to be honest. It's called the offensive heal chip, and basically a percentage of the damage you deal is given back as health to you. And basically, early in the game, I was able to get a +6 offensive chip, which basically made 50% of my damage dealt give back health to me. So basically, I would attack enemies with these combos, and I would be getting more health than I would be taking damage. And it definitely made the game a little bit easy. It definitely broke the game, especially when I combined it with a few different other chips. For instance, one of the cooler chips in this game is like the witch time chip. It's called overclock, and it basically, if you dodge at the right time, if you do a perfect evade, time slows down for a little bit, which is basically the witch time mechanic in Bayonetta. And I thought that was cool how it was basically tied behind a chip. And I guess you can't get too overpowered because a lot of these really strong chips take up a lot of storage. Like the +6 offensive heal, for instance, took up a good chunk of the storage. So it's not like you can just equip a bunch of +6 chips and be completely overpowered. And I will admit, later in the game, it did get a little more difficult. There was a few bosses that definitely were quite challenging, even with the chips I had equipped. But when I combined the offensive heal, the overclock, which I had a +6 overclock, so it was like 4 seconds I would get a slow-mo. So that was just more time to hit enemies and get all my health back. And then the weapon damage +6 chip, which gave me 50% weapon damage. Yeah, I felt pretty unstoppable in this game. But again, if you're finding it too easy, you can always just bump up the difficulty. You can change it at any time. The very hard setting is honestly a little stupid sounding to me. You die in one hit, which that to me is just kind of dumb. I wouldn't want to play the game in that way, but hard mode might be a better option. One thing I do want to say, the prologue sequence in this game, you can't save and there's no checkpoints. And from what I've heard, a lot of people find the hard mode in the prologue to be ridiculous because if you die at the boss 30 minutes in, you actually have to do the whole thing from the beginning again. And that's a bit of a poor design decision, I gotta say. If you can, definitely try to play the prologue on normal or easy, or you'll get frustrated pretty early on. But then from what I understand, hard mode is better when you actually start to get to the main game. But yeah, the chip system, I love it. I think it's really cool. It's really customizable, and I love all the different abilities you get. And yeah, I greatly enjoyed it. I really liked the character development elements in this game as far as like it being an RPG goes. And I really do like the sense of power. You really feel like a badass, especially later in the game. A lot of cool enemy types in this game. I love the enemy designs. A lot of different interesting. It's amazing how they kind of build on like these standard robot designs. The bosses, for the most part, are fantastic, as with most Platinum games. One of the final bosses just gets crazier and crazier and crazier, and I just absolutely loved it. There was just one boss in this game that I hated. It was like this giant like robot caterpillar boss in a desert, and it would just constantly shoot lasers and projectile attacks at you. And each of these like balls on this caterpillar was able to shoot like a laser and projectiles at you. And the camera just was not cooperating in that fight. And the camera can get a little wonky at times in this game for sure, but generally it's pretty good. But yeah, this caterpillar boss was just annoying. Like, it was almost impossible to dodge its attacks. And you could easily get stun locked by its attacks and then just get killed out of nowhere. That was really frustrating. But other than that, the bosses for the most part are fantastic. Really did enjoy them. From a thematic standpoint, like as far as what they mean for like the story and what's happening in the game, and then from a gameplay standpoint as well. And like I said before, the way they kind of a lot of these bosses have really cool mechanics built into them that I really would not want to spoil for people. But yeah, the world building in this game is just fantastic, and how it combines with the gameplay itself is really interesting. This is one of the most like creative games I've played in a long time. And just the combination of Platinum gameplay with Yogatero's like just crazy ideas it's something to behold. It's really quite impressive. And the endings in this game, I do appreciate that you don't have to get all the endings to get the true ending here. I love the final ending in this game. I think it's absolutely terrific. Of course, again, it's something I really can't spoil. What else with gameplay? The map could be a little better. I think the map is a little awkward to use, but it's not terrible or anything. And yeah, a lot of interesting kind of mini games you'll find later in the game as well. And yeah, the combat I quite enjoy, but yeah, not a whole lot else to say about the gameplay. I think I've mostly covered about everything. Again, not as in-depth as something like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry, but it's still incredibly good. And definitely a great match for what Yoko Taro is trying to accomplish here. Let's talk about the visuals. Like I said before, I do actually like the art design in this game, like the desolate brown and gray open world. Some people are probably not going to be a huge fan of it, but I really did think it fit like the tone of the game. And the actual enemy designs and character designs in this game are really interesting, I think. It's definitely some cool enemy types that you'll see throughout the game. A lot of the boss designs I thought were really excellent as well. And there's a lot of cool little visual touches in this game that, again, I don't want to spoil. It sucks. Like, maybe I should do like a spoiler review at some point for this game, talking about all like the cool ass design decisions that happen in this game. But again, Yoko Taro thinks about something like visuals and sound. So moving on to sound, because I really do like the visuals in this game. I guess one thing I should say about the visuals, it runs at 60 frames per second for the most part, which is good. I think a Platinum game, like action game like this, should always try to attempt 60 frames per second. Unfortunately, there are frame rate drops at times when the action gets really hectic, which that's definitely unfortunate. This is on the original PS4. Maybe the PS4 Pro is a little better, and I imagine if you have a great PC, the PC port is probably going to be a consistent 60 frames per second as well, but definitely a little disappointing. I think there's some frame pacing issues in this game as well, but overall the frame rate is fairly consistent. Like, it doesn't drop a whole lot, so that's at least some good news there. But yeah, I do love the look of this game. I think the visuals are definitely good. It's just, on a technical level, it's not like one of the best looking PS4 games or anything. They definitely focus more on getting that frame rate at 60 frames per second. I mean, it's definitely a step down coming from something like Horizon, which is like one of the best games I've ever seen as far as visuals. But I do like the visuals in this game. I think the art direction is quite strong. But moving back to the audio, the sound effects in this game are really well done, and there's some design decisions in this game as far as like the audio goes that are really interesting. The transition from basically normal gameplay to a certain other type of gameplay, and how the music changes later in the game, is this great design decision. And one thing I want to say about this game is the attention to detail. There are so many little details that I noticed throughout this game where I would be like, oh shit, that's really cool. So many different moments like that playing throughout this game that I really appreciated. But moving back to audio, the soundtrack is phenomenal. A lot of people were expecting to be maybe like a bit let down by the soundtrack. Returning composer Keiichi Okabe, I think that's how you pronounce his name, did the soundtrack for this game. Obviously, he did the soundtrack for NIER, as well as, I believe, Drakengard 3. It's a phenomenal soundtrack. It's very eclectic. A lot of different types of songs. Some more like jazz-based songs. Some more like upbeat kind of songs. A lot of songs with weird vocal stylings to them. Amy Evans, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She comes back for some of the songs in this game as well. So some really great vocal melodies to a lot of them. There are some really bizarre songs with like glitched out vocals at times. There's a lot of like kind of slower paced, more melodic songs that are really kind of sad. My favorite song in the game is actually one that's very early in the game. It plays during the bunker sequences, and it's just this really eerie, moody track that's like super atmospheric, and I love what it adds to that location. It fits so well. There's also another song that plays during a certain sequence I really wouldn't want to spoil, but it's like this really cool environment that you wouldn't expect. And the song that plays is just absolutely beautiful. Like, when I first heard it, I just like put down the controller and listened to it. It was really strong. Some songs are a bit weird, like maybe a little bit too weird for my tastes, but yeah, this is a hell of a soundtrack. It really does fit like the style and tone of this game. I prefer it to the original NIER soundtrack. I honestly do. I'm not sure. People might be divided on that, but yeah, I really love the soundtrack in this game. I thought it was phenomenal, and he did a better job than he did on NIER, in my opinion, which is pretty crazy to think about. But, I mean, one thing I forgot to mention in the gameplay, actually, is the kind of Souls-type element it has in this game, where when you die, you have to basically recover your body where you died, and all your chips and items are going to be on your body. And if you die again trying to find it, you actually lose everything you have. So that's another element to the game where if you have overpowered chips, you always have the potential to lose them. Now, this mechanic didn't really play into my game all that much. Honestly, there were a few times where I died and had to get my body again, but I never did die a second time. Because, yeah, on normal mode, at least for me, I found this game pretty easy, mostly because of the chips I equipped. But, yeah, there is also, I guess, another element. If you're playing online, you'll see other dead bodies from other players. And you can kind of give them a little health boost in their own game, and then you can kind of retrieve temporary materials from them. So like the chips that they've got equipped, it might be like +7 weapon damage. So you'll have that temporarily as sort of like a skill on your character. Or you can also just repair them, and then they fight for you for a little bit, which honestly I didn't find was all that helpful. They would die pretty quickly. I would mostly just retrieve their body because you get a little bit of money and then obviously those temporary chips as well. So yeah, I did forget to mention that mechanic. It's kind of minor. It's really cool as far as like the world building and story goes and how it ties into that, and it actually makes perfect sense as well. It's just as far as gameplay goes, it didn't have like a huge impact or anything. But yeah, that's it, guys. That's NIER Automata. Absolutely incredible game. Definitely the best game I've played this year. I basically play it. Just play it. It is totally worth your time. I guess for the playtime, it took like a little over 30 hours to get all the main endings, and then I actually ended up getting the platinum for it as well, which took an extra like 8 hours. One thing with this game, and this could maybe be an interesting discussion point, the way you unlock trophies in this game, there's actually a shop where you can actually buy the trophies with the in-game currency, and I've never heard of another game doing that. And so, no shame, I ended up buying most of the trophies, because a lot of them were bullshit, honestly, like catch 20 different types of fish, do 80% of the side quests, which, like I said before, I hated the side quests, fully upgrade every weapon, like the kind of shit that just takes way too much time. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a little lame buying trophies. Like, I probably could have just didn't care and just stopped playing the game. But yeah, it's kind of a weird design decision. I don't know exactly why that's in the game exactly, but it's there for people that want to do it, I guess. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Like, I guess I don't mind it as a one-off in like this one game, but if they ever did this as like a way of like having microtransactions where you actually buy the trophies with actual money, then that would be something I'd be heavily against. And I'm not sure I'd like to see this in like every game, or honestly any other game for that matter. But for this one-off, I thought it was maybe kind of this interesting little thing. But I could definitely kind of understand why people would not want to bother with that and get the trophies themselves. I definitely wanted to get certain trophies that required like a good level of skill to get, for instance. But a lot of those like tedious bullshit trophies, I was like, fuck it, I'll just buy it with the in-game currency. But anyways, that's it, guys. Yeah, hell of a game. Honestly, this is my favorite game that Platinum has developed. It's my favorite Yoko Taro game. I think it's one of the most improved sequels I've ever seen. The level of quality here, as far as like gameplay goes between the two games, is insane. Like, the jump is crazy. Finally, I feel like Yoko Taro finally has a game where the gameplay and mechanics have lived up to the actual like storytelling. Absolutely stellar game. Definitely play it. I know this year is just packed with games, and there's so much good stuff right now. But definitely try to make some time for this game. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by it. And the fact that people are thinking like there's even better games this year, like Zelda. The new Zelda is apparently fucking incredible. Persona 5 comes out soon, which has the potential to be one of my favorite games of all time. Oh man, this year is off to a hell of a good start. Definitely one of the more memorable years in gaming for me. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.
What's your status?